Is a consent letter legally binding?
Hello viewers. Today we're going to tackle an important and frequently asked question. Is a consent letter legally binding? This question is particularly relevant when it comes to areas like contracts, medical decisions, and even everyday transactions.
What is a consent letter?
Let's start at the beginning. A consent letter is a written document that demonstrates an individual's agreement towards a certain proposition. It might be used in a variety of situations, from a parent giving consent for a child's school trip to a patient agreeing to a medical procedure.
Is a consent letter legally binding?
So, to the big question, is a consent letter legally binding? Well, it largely depends on the context. In some cases, yes, it can be. However, there are several factors that can affect its enforceability. 1. Understanding and capacity. The person giving consent must have a clear understanding of what they are consenting to, and they must have the capacity to give that consent. For example, they must be of sound mind and not under the influence of substances that could impair judgment. 2. Voluntary action. The consent must be given voluntarily, without coercion or undue pressure. 3. Legality of the action. The action or proposition being consented to must be legal. You can't legally consent to an illegal act. If these conditions are met, the consent letter can indeed be legally binding. However, if any of these conditions are not met, it could potentially void the agreement.
How can a consent letter be challenged?
Even if a consent letter is legally binding, it can still be challenged in court. For instance, if there's evidence that the consent was not given voluntarily, or the person did not fully understand what they were consenting to, the consent letter might be considered invalid. In these cases, it's always best to seek the advice of a legal professional who can guide you based on the specifics of your situation and the jurisdiction you're in. In conclusion, a consent letter can be legally binding, but its enforceability largely depends on the specifics of the situation, the context in which the consent is given, and whether all necessary conditions for valid consent have been met. If you're in a situation where you need to rely on a consent letter, it's always a good idea to consult with a legal professional to ensure your bases are covered. We hope this video has been helpful. Stay tuned for more informative content on legal topics. Until next time.